I always thought my parents' love was the kind that grows old with the sound of rain. They had this way of looking at each other that seemed like habit, but it was really care. My father woke up early, made coffee, and my mother used to say the smell of it was his way of saying, "I love you." It was simple. It was beautiful. It was what I believed to be eternal. That week, they would celebrate 32 years of marriage. My father bought yellow flowers, the same ones from their first date, and planned a dinner just for the two of them. He was excited, nervous even. Said he wanted to surprise her. But what no one expected was that the surprise would come from her. That morning, my mother woke up before the sun. She made coffee, cleaned the house, and put on the blue dress she always wore on special days. Then she left the cake on the table, half decorated, half unfinished, and disappeared. No letter, no warning, no trace. My father called everyone, friends, relatives, people from church. No one knew anything. The police said it was too soon to call it a disappearance. But for me, her absence was already loud enough. The house felt smaller. The yellow flowers wilted in 2 days. And the cake stayed there, a cruel reminder that sometimes love leaves without saying goodbye. If you're still here listening to me, tell me in the comments where you're from. I love imagining where these words find you. And if this story has already made your heart ache a little, subscribe. So I know you're here with me. In the days that followed, my father tried to convince himself she'd come back. He said maybe she'd gone to visit a friend, or just needed some time. But time, when it comes with silence, tastes a lot like truth. We started searching everything. Drawers, notebooks, her phone, nothing. Until, inside an old poetry book she used to read on Sunday afternoons, I found an envelope with no name. Inside, just one sentence. Not every escape is cowardice. Sometimes, it's the only way to survive. I read it 10 times. And I understood that her disappearance wasn't a mistake. It was a scream. At first, I refused to believe she'd left by choice. It was easier to imagine an accident, a misunderstanding, anything to justify her absence. But over time, I realized that the most painful things are often the ones without explanation. My father tried to keep his routine. He still set 2 plates at the table, as if persistence could become prayer. Sometimes I caught him looking toward the door, waiting for the sound of her key, her light footsteps. But the door stayed quiet, and silence became the new sound of our home. One night, while I was looking through old photos, I noticed that in the most recent ones, my mother's smile had changed. It was a smile of someone pretending to live where her heart no longer belonged. And that realization cut deep. The next day, I went to her studio in the back of the yard. It was the place she went when she needed to think. Everything was covered in a fine layer of dust. Fabrics, patterns. A sewing machine stopped mid-project. In the corner, a cardboard box with her name written in pen. Do not open. I opened it. Inside, there were letters. Old ones. Addressed to a name I'd never heard before. Miguel. The earliest ones were over 30 years old. The same time my parents' marriage had begun. The handwriting was unmistakable. It was hers. But what took my breath away was what she wrote. Miguel, I hope you're well. Sometimes I wonder if things would have been different if I had stayed. But life doesn't ask if we're ready. I still have the blue scarf you gave me. It still smells like the sea from that day. Sometimes I hold it, like I'm trying to hold on to time itself. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me for choosing the safer path, but please know, I never forgot the other one. Miguel, a name, a ghost, a parallel life. My father never knew about those letters. And in that moment, I realized their marriage might have been built on mutual silence. The kind of pact 2 hearts make when they choose peace over truth. That night, I looked at their wedding photo. They were smiling, young, confident, as if love would always be enough. And I thought, maybe love also means lying a little, not out of malice, but out of survival. If you're still here with me, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. These stories come alive when I imagine where my words reach you. And if this one reminded you of someone who left without saying why, stay with me till the end. The hardest and most beautiful part is yet to come. In the following days, I started investigating who Miguel was. Nothing online, no recent records. But one of the last letters had an address. A small town about 4 hours away. I took the car and drove there. The road felt endless for a heart full of questions. The radio played softly, and the sound of rain on the windshield reminded me of her voice. Calm, but always hiding something behind it. When I arrived, it was already night. A small town, cobblestone streets, the smell of fresh bread in the air. I asked about Miguel at a cafe. The waitress hesitated, then said, "Miguel? The man from the White House near the square? He passed away a few years ago." My chest tightened, but before I left, she added, "His wife still lives there." I walked to the White House. A woman answered the door, gray hair in a bun, kind but tired eyes. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm sorry to bother you. I'm looking for someone named Miguel, or someone who knew him." She looked at me for a long time, as if trying to recognize something. "You're Helena's son, aren't you?" My blood ran cold. She knew my mother's name. "Come in," she said, opening the door. The house smelled like old wood and memories. On the wall, a picture of a smiling man, Miguel. She pointed to it and murmured, "He talked about her, you know? Your mother. A lot." I asked, "Talked about her how?" She smiled softly, like someone talking about a love that never left. They met before she got married, I think. She was a teacher in a nearby town. He used to say she had eyes that understood the whole world. I stood frozen. She went on. But one day, she disappeared. Never came back. He waited months, then years, until he understood she had chosen another life. He never said a bad word about her. Only this, "If she's happy, then I am too." She went to a shelf and took out a small box. He asked me to keep this. Said if anyone ever came looking for her, I should give it to them. The box was lined with blue fabric. Inside, a necklace, a few old photos, my mother and Miguel smiling on a beach, and a letter. The envelope was yellowed with time, but the words were clear. "To my son, when he understands love." I opened it. Her handwriting. Her voice. "My dear, if you're reading this, it means the truth finally found its time. I never wanted you to see me as someone who gave up. But there are things in life we don't abandon. We just keep them safe. When I met Miguel, I was just a girl in a hurry to grow up. He taught me that love doesn't need promises to be real. But I also learned that sometimes love happens at the wrong time. I married your father trying to erase what I felt. And for a long time, I thought I did. But what's real doesn't vanish. It only sleeps. When Miguel found me again after so many years, I realized what we had wasn't over. It was paused. I didn't run from you. I went back to myself. And if one day you love someone and feel afraid, remember, love isn't always what people expect from us. It's what survives, even when we lose ourselves. Signed, Mom. The letter slipped from my hands. She hadn't disappeared. She had chosen to exist. I went home with my heart in pieces. And in peace. My father was on the porch, tired eyes heavy with regret. When he saw me, he tried to smile. "Did you find her?" he asked. "In a way, yes." I handed him the necklace. He recognized it instantly. She wore this the day we met. And then he went quiet, a silence that, for the first time, didn't hurt. That night, we just sat there, father and son, side by side, without needing explanations. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't come through words, but through the understanding that everyone did their best with what they knew. Months passed. We never saw my mother again. But sometimes a letter arrived, no name, no address, just her handwriting, always with one line of truth. Love doesn't end. It just moves houses. Time doesn't heal. It teaches us how to fit inside what's left. Don't look for answers at the end. Sometimes the beginning is the real destination. I kept them all. Over time, I realized hers wasn't a story of escape, but of liberation. She taught me something I only understood years later. True love doesn't ask for possession. It asks for peace. Now, whenever I pass by the house where I grew up, I see the window where she used to water her plants. The curtain moves with the wind, and for a second, I swear I can still smell her coffee, hear her steps, feel her calm, and I think her absence was never emptiness. It was direction, because sometimes the one who leaves is the only one brave enough to show what was wrong. If you're still here, tell me where you're listening from. I love imagining where these words land. A quiet living room, a car on the road, a sleepless night somewhere in the world. And if this story made you feel something, nostalgia, understanding, empathy, subscribe. So I know you're here with me. When I think about my parents' love today, I don't see failure. I see two people who tried, who made mistakes, and in the end, chose truth. And if that's not love, then what is? Life has a strange way of teaching us that happiness doesn't live in promises kept, but in truths accepted. And love, when it's real, keeps existing, even when it decides to leave. I learned from her that love isn't about staying. It's about being honest enough to go when your heart calls for another path. And that was another story that reminds me that sometimes love doesn't end, it transforms. And it transforms us with it. See you in the next story. Until then, take care of yourself and of the truths that live inside your silence.